Alright, now that 2019 is actually over, we can make a top 10 list. Any list made before 2019 actually ended is a lie. Before I start this list, I have a few disclaimers, one being that I didn't play every single game released in 2019, so any glaring omission from this top 10 either means I just didn't have the time to get to it, or it's just terrible. I'll let your imagination choose between the two. The next disclaimer is that this list is 100% objective, as my personal taste is above anyone else's, so if you disagree, it's okay to be wrong. Before we get into this, obviously I'll be covering my top 10 games of 2019, but also we'll have 4 more categories that I will cover, including honorable mentions, things I will eventually play, better luck in a sequel, and my most disappointing game of 2019. So with all that being said, let's get on to number 10. River City Girls is a game by WayForward. You might know them from games such as Shantae and Mighty Switch Force, so you know off the bat that this game will have a wonderful soundtrack. Not only is the soundtrack great, so is the art and dialogue.
So go punch through another wall until you figure out how doors work.
The game revolves around Kyoko and Misako from the Kunio-kun games losing their boyfriends to some kidnappers. You go around this street-brawling city to try and save them while also getting some funny tongue-in-cheek references on why everyone in the city is so violent for no reason. The 2D beat-em-up gameplay takes some elements from fighting and platforming games too, so it doesn't get boring much like any other games in this genre. The 2-player couch co-op also adds a lot to the fun, as well as the references to games like Double Dragon and River City Ransom. All in all, it's a great game with lots of charm that you come to expect from WayForward games, so if you liked any of their past games or just looking for a fun couch co-op action game, this one's for you.
You're embarrassing me!
Pkun Ecoo, a game by an indie collective known as Sector Dub. You play as this pill with legs known as Piku, helping overthrow this monopoly man that takes up valuable resources from the world in exchange for money. The plot here isn't really the focal point though, it's the comedy and interesting mechanics involved in this game. Most of it involves just puzzles and walking, with some interesting platforming once in a while. But the game is littered with hilarious writing and a charming cast. At one point you go into a pottery store, so my first instinct of course was to just break all the pots and see what the store owner would say afterwards. Well, I broke all of the owner's pottery expecting some funny one-liner or something, but nope, he just made me feel incredibly guilty and sad. That's the nice thing about this game though. It feels like a roller coaster and you don't really know what to expect next. You go from kicking explosive acorns in the forest to having a Dance Dance Revolution competition within a 15-minute time frame. It's chaotic and fun. Callum Bowen worked on the soundtrack for this one and it's filled with cute and quirky tracks. There's also a co-op mode where the second player plays as Niku. As 2 players, you both work together to solve puzzles, which is also quite fun. Pokemon Sword and Shield, the Black Wooloo in this list. Game Freak got so much backlash for many things between the cuts to the Pokédex and what people say is a shoddy attempt at a mainline Pokemon game on a console. Well, as much as I can agree with some of these criticisms, it's still Pokemon and it takes a lot more than that to make it a bad game. The introduction to things like raid battles and camping adds some spice to the formula, and the new Pokemon are pretty cool between ones like Dragapult that shoots its little friends as missiles, or the elegant Snowmoth with translucent wings, Frostmoth. The music is great as always as well. Another thing I'd like to point out is that they're starting to consistently write some lovable characters. Last generation we got legends like Guzma and Nanu, but this generation we get memorable characters like Opal, Piers, Hop, and Ball Guy. I really hope that future updates and DLC fixes some of the problems like the post-game and online. Bug Fables was created by Moonsprout Games and is a spiritual successor of the first 2 Paper Mario games. It's about a group of 3 friends finding the everlasting sapling, which promises immortality, I covered this game in a previous video if you want a more detailed look at it. Fables is a turn-based RPG with action inputs similar to the Paper Mario series. However, thematically speaking, it's about insects instead of paper. The art is cute and has a hand-drawn vibe to it. The dialogue is fun and hilarious at times, and the combat feels really rewarding. This is yet another indie game with a killer soundtrack. Tristan Ulrich scored this one, and it's filled with great battle themes as well as whimsy overworld tunes. The puzzles in this game are great and force you to think creatively. They also give you a hard mode option at the start, which makes the game pretty challenging. Hwadam, another classic Keita Takahashi game with the developers of Funimena and Santa Monica Studios. This game is definitely one of the weirdest things 2019 has ever seen, and it's fantastic. It's a game that is somehow so weird, but manages to also be heartwarming with its simple story. It's about how the world exploded due to a mysterious evil entity, and no one remembers what happened. You progress by holding hands, laughing, and using a bomb to blow up your friends. Don't try this in real life. There is no other game like Hwadam. It's a unique experience that's a must-play for anyone looking for something different, or if you're a fan of prior Keita Takahashi games like Katamari or Nobi Nobi Boy. There's little details in this game that make you smile, like how if you were to change your character, the music changes very slightly, or watching small interactions between the different characters. The thing that makes Hwadam such a pleasure to play is how absurd it gets at points. You can't help but smile and think, why does this even exist? Gearbox's Borderlands 3 is about what everyone expected. As a huge fan of Borderlands, they delivered. The story isn't important because the story in any Borderlands game ever consistently sucks and they don't know how to write. I still don't think it's as good as the first game, but it's definitely a worthy successor. The new weapon effects like walking kamikaze guns and ricochet bullets makes the gunplay really fun. Borderlands by far is my favorite first-person RPG series due to their fun gameplay and humor as well as their multiplayer. Many of the changes were for the better, like replacing slag for radiation, giving multiple action skills for each character, and more fluid movement. This is definitely a fantastic game and worth the pickup. Buff Dragon Man for Smash. No, I'm not a furry, despite my icon. Ring Fit Adventure is a very interesting take for an RPG. Not only do you progress and get stronger in the game, you progress and look like an idiot playing the game in real life. Ring Fit was created by Nintendo EPD and tries to promote various exercises within a game. It's this generation's Wii Fit, sort of. This game has a lot of charm with its art style and Drago. Yes, Drago is the only interesting character in this game, but he's pretty awesome with his macho man personality. Works really well for an antagonist. Other than Drago, the story and dialogue isn't really much. The focal point of the game is to get a good workout in, and it really does its job. You can easily cheat the workouts, but I'm not sure what kind of psychopath would buy a workout game just to cheat their workouts. The game reels you in well enough that it gives you motivation to work out with it almost daily. I'm a huge fan, and this is definitely one of my favorite RPGs as it has a great twist. My Emblem Academia. Sorry. Fire Emblem Three Houses is a collaborative effort between Intelligent Systems and Koei Tecmo. They really hit it out of the park with this one. A Fire Emblem where they finally laid off the weird petting and romance. Awakening is still my personal favorite, but Fates kinda took it a little too far. Three Houses feels like a fresh take on the whole series without losing the core values of the modern series. The general plot involves the protagonist becoming a teacher at the Church of Saros. The story can branch off in multiple different ways, which really fuels extra playthroughs. They added a hub world and many social aspects to the game similar to how Persona games work, with things like cooking and fishing. The characters are interesting for the most part too. Some do kind of land in the anime trope area, but there's an abundance of cool ones that it's easy to overlook the more generic kinds. What? A first-person RPG that I think is better than Borderlands 3? Yep, The Outer Worlds is an Obsidian standalone child that really had free reign. A game that learned from their past games like Fallout New Vegas, and they made a game that in my opinion is even better than the modern Fallout games. Take notes, Gearbox, this is how you write a story about corporations taking over the universe. I went into this game thinking it'd be a mix of Fallout and Borderlands, and that ended up only being a surface level comparison. The Outer Worlds has so much character and life that I was blown away that these were the same people that made New Vegas, as my biggest gripe with the Fallout series was that it just felt so barren, which I know is kinda the whole point since it's post-apocalyptic and all. The Outer Worlds has so much put into it between the story, characters, creatures, and humor that every nook and cranny feels like there was thought and reasoning that it was put there. It also has a way that makes you feel bad with any choice you choose. It really feels like every choice has its own consequence, kind of like in real life. Now that we only have one big papa left for a game of the year, let's go over briefly the special categories. For honorable mentions, we have Code Vein, aka Anime Dark Souls. It's a pretty good game, worth a shot if you like Dark Souls. Untitled Goose Game, a cute indie game about playing as a goose who is also a jerk. Dead or Alive 6, just a solid fighting game, and it's really fun to string combos. Super Mario Maker 2, great game that has seemingly infinite content, just feels like they didn't really add enough from the last installment. Next up is 2019 games I plan to play in 2020. Astral Chain, I love the Bayonetta series and Platinum Games, so I feel like this will be a good buy. Indivisible, same creators as Skullgirls, and the art looks pretty great. Samurai Showdown. I love the original Neo Geo games, so I'm waiting for the Switch release. And the special reward of this game was good in concept and executed some things pretty well, but ultimately needs a sequel to refine its formula, and then it will be considered a good game, goes to Jump Force. The combat and character creation is fun, but literally everything else needs to be built anew. The art style, the story, the lack of cool interactions between the anime characters. I think if they fix these things, the next game will definitely be a hit. Finally, we move on to the most disappointing game of 2019. It should be obvious that this is Kingdom Hearts 3. KH3 is a game I kind of expected to not live up to Kingdom Hearts 2's quality, and well, I couldn't even finish it. It's just so boring. Square Enix, please just kill off the series, maybe just start it over again. So much stories going on, just expect so much from me. In college I aced my calculus course, but my Kingdom Hearts lore course, I didn't do too well in it. The gameplay feels a lot more saturated too, with things like attraction moves, which weren't in Kingdom Hearts 2. The attraction moves kind of draw out the fights a little bit longer than they should be, and it kind of makes the fights a little less fun. And with all of that being said, what is my favorite game of 2019? Luigi's Mansion 3 by Next Level Games. Interesting pick, I would say, but let me explain why. This game has so much love in it that there's never been a moment in this game that didn't make me smile. Between the mannerisms of Luigi, or the little rewards you get for exploring, or the crazy puzzles, and my favorite part, the creative boss fights, the game just feels like a very polished experience. This adventure is about Luigi and friends getting tricked yet again by King Boo, and it's up to Luigi to save them, yet again. The intro sequence breathes so much life into this game and really sets you up for the rest. It is probably one of my favorite intro sequences in any video game. The puzzles in this game reward creative thinking, and it really feels good whenever you have one of those aha moments. As much as I was considering putting The Outer Worlds as number 1, it just didn't have the same polish that Luigi's Mansion 3 did, that ended up being the one thing that made me pick it over the other. Otherwise, it was neck and neck for number 1 spot. I just love this game. It feels kind of like you're playing an interactive movie at some points. Everything just feels so perfectly fine-tuned to play out. I would say this is the best in the series so far. It takes the variety of environments from Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, but the openness of Luigi's Mansion 1, and makes the perfect Luigi's Mansion game in my personal opinion, as well as my personal favorite game of 2019.
Very, great top 10 list, Nico. Very interesting that you chose Linguini's Mansion 3 as the game video of the year. I was really positive that you'd pick something that was less fettuccine Alfredo. Anyways, now that I made 3 puns within a 10-second time frame, you are legally obligated to watch my own personal countdown video. It's about my top 10 personal favorite air conditioners.